Tonight on First Block, Key and Peele's Keegan Michael Key comes home to Detroit to give back and make us laugh.
Someone will yell from across the street, "Hey, Aaron!" They just say it because everybody knows somebody named Aaron.
Detroit's drink celebrates a major milestone. Meet the man who may be Vernors' #1 fan.
My wife is very understanding as long as it all stays in the basement.
And you've seen them at the zoo, now hang out with the penguins in their home of Antarctica. Hello and welcome to First Block from the beautiful butterfly garden at the Detroit Zoo. It's a great metaphor for the stories we're going to tell you today, coming out of a cocoon and growing into something great. First up, Keegan Michael Key starred on the wildly popular Comedy Central sketch show Key and Peele and is now moving on to movies. But Keegan got his start doing improv in the comfort of his hometown, Detroit.
And when it comes to flair, these characters are the creme de la creme.
Creme de la creme. Vanderbilt University.
Cosgrove, Shumway, Clemson.
You probably know him best from bits like this.
Doika Marshall.
Legume, Dupree, West Virginia University.
As half the sketch duo Key and Peele. Or maybe you remember when he paired up with another comedy partner.
Hold on to your lily white butts.
Keegan Michael Key has come a long way.
Hello. It's so good to be home.
Home is Detroit. Keegan grew up in Green Acres, a quiet neighborhood along the city's northern border.
I had a great, fun kind of, I thought, typical American childhood. We played in the streets until the street lights came on, and you could run out the front door, and your mom would say, "Be back for dinner," and you go for dinner, and then you run back out again until dusk. And we had a huge field at the end of our block where we used to play football and baseball and soccer and everything, and it was fantastic. And I had great neighbors and a lot of. And, I'm in my 40s, but we had a lot of diversity in our neighborhood when I was young. When I got into high school, I got really into theater. I didn't know how I would do it, but I had a really amazing drama teacher named Mary Rashid and, at Royal Oak Shrine, and she almost pulled me into the experience. She said, "I don't care what you do, but you're doing something." So I ran the lights when I was a freshman, and then I did the plays when I was a sophomore and a junior, and that was all I needed to go, oh no, if I do this, I don't have to do math. It was, I think that's my senior picture. Wow. Senior or junior, yeah. Look at all that hair.
I know, all that hair. Wait, what about this one?
And that's the first starring role I've ever had in my life. That's Godspell.
So how did you get from Detroit to LA, to Hollywood?
By way of Chicago. So I worked at the Second City Comedy Theater. There was a branch here in Detroit, and I worked there for 3 years and 11 months to the day. And then went to Chicago and worked at the Chicago Second City, the famed Chicago Second City. And then what happens is, very often when you work at the Second City, the art is the most important part of it. But the other thing is that there's always a thing in the back of your head that's going, I might get scouted by SNL. And that's what happened.
Keegan spent 6 years on Mad TV. His friendship and chemistry with fellow cast member Jordan Peele led to what's become a legendary comedy partnership, Key and Peele.
When people come up to you, what's the thing that they recite the most to you? Because I know I go around my house and my husband and I were like, Hingle McCringleberry, or Action Flaction Jackson, and doing like, what is the thing that people come up to you?
Probably the most, 100% the most, is someone will yell from across the street, "Hey, Aaron!" They just say it because everybody knows somebody named Aaron.
Hey, Ron. Here. Oh, man. Why didn't you answer me the first time I said it, huh? I'm just asking, I said it like 4 times, so why didn't you say it the first time I said, hey, Ron? Because it's pronounced Aaron?
That substitute teacher sketch is being turned into a movie, but Key and Peele's big screen debut is this spring in a comedy called Keanu.
It's gonna be okay.
You're right, Clarence. I want you to meet Keanu.
No. Oh my God, that's the cutest guy I've ever seen in my life.
Another classic Key and Peele bit is Luther, President Obama's anger translator. Luther made an appearance at last year's White House Correspondents' Dinner.
You really stole the show. What was that like?
That was amazing. I mean, it's the best moment of my life. The thing that was most pleasantly surprising was how calm and collected and what a great straight man the president is.
Hold on to your lily white butts.
Yeah, I gotta keep it straight. Despite our differences, we count on the press to shed light on the most important issues of the day.
And we can count on
on Fox News to terrify old white people with some nonsense. Sharia law is coming to Cleveland, run for the damn hills.
When you come back here, are there restaurants or places that you have to go? You're like, you got to go by Belle Isle, or do you got to go eat at, you know, whatever?
I have to go to Lafayette whenever I come home. Lafayette, Coney Island.
Oh, the Coney dog? Okay.
And I'm a Lafayette guy, even though I went to American the other day when I was here for Thanksgiving because Lafayette was closed. So I had to go to, I mean, you know, it was okay. But, and then one of my dearest friends from high school, my dearest friends in my life, runs and manages Slows Barbecue.
Oh.
Visits home are more than just fun. Keegan is co-founder of the Planet Ant Improv Theater in Hamtramck, and he's a member of the 313, a comedy troupe based in Los Angeles, but with deep roots in Detroit.
I'm gaining on him! I'm gaining! Tony, wipe that dude's face off!
Keegan and the 313 recently performed in the 313 at the Detroit Institute of Arts. He's also passionate about improv classes for kids as part of the Detroit Creativity Project.
It doesn't require a lot of money. It doesn't require a lot of overhead. It just requires a willingness and imagination.
1,300 students are getting improv training now, and Keegan wants that number to grow.
What I wish would happen is that we could get improvisation into the curriculum in the DPS, which I think would be an amazing thing, because then people at a young age are learning not only problem-solving skills, but learning life skills.
Sure.
Not just
think on their feet.
How to think on their feet, how to look at any situation and really hear what you have to say and enhance what you have to say. So, and if you learn that when you're young and you get indoctrinated with that at a young age, it's going to be better for you as you get older and older and older, if that's the way you see the world. Everything's a challenge to be solved. Everything's a way of supporting other people. Right. And I think it's just, I don't think it's just fun. I think it's crucial.
Seeing the world through the prism of improv has served Keegan well, so he comes home to pass it on.
I want us to make sure that we continue to embrace who we are artistically and who we are as a hardworking people that says, okay, that happened, let's pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and figure out what's next.
And you mentioned hardworking. Detroiters are known as being hardworking folk.
People.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's helped you to do so well in your career, that you have that kind of hardworking grit about yourself because you grew up here?
I would like to think that my parents and the city gave me that work ethic. My hope is that it's so ingrained in you that some days you don't even notice that you're working hard, and other days you do, but you're just like, oh, that's how I got here, is through hard work. How else would you do it?
Okay, so here's a piece of trivia for you. Actress Kristen Bell from Veronica Mars and, of course, Frozen also went to Shrine Catholic High School 9 years after Keegan. And get this, they had the same drama teacher, Mary Rashid. All right, coming up, a big fuss about a big fizz, the story behind America's oldest pop and its most effervescent fans. But first, studying penguins at their home in Antarctica is making life even better for the penguins at the Detroit Zoo. We'll take you to the bottom of the world next. Welcome back to First Block. It's pretty warm here inside the butterfly garden at the Detroit Zoo, which is a far cry from the chilly penguinarium not too far away. A group from the zoo just got back from an expedition to Antarctica, and one bird department zookeeper spent months researching penguins in their natural homes. Our Ben Bailey has more on how what they learned at the bottom of the world benefits penguins who live here in Detroit.
When you spend years studying penguins and hours with them every day, you get to know them pretty well.
I've always been interested in birds in general, but I think penguins win over the heart of almost everybody.
From the animated to the real thing.
The mother sees her chick for the first time.
Penguins do capture our imagination and waddle their way into our hearts.
The Detroit Zoo is home to the world's first penguinarium, built back in the 1960s. And zookeeper Matthew Porter knows each of these 83 residents by name. The zoo works with Polar Oceans Research Group as part of their conservation effort. And that collaboration allowed Matthew to be invited for the entire summer season to Antarctica.
When they first asked me, I think it took a couple nanoseconds to say yes. What an opportunity. I was so excited.
When it's winter here, it's summer in Antarctica. The sun stays up most of the day. Average temperature on the peninsula hovers around freezing. And crossing the infamous rough waters of the Drake Passage leads to what feels like another world.
It was just incredible. I was beating my eyes like, when am I going to wake up? There's icebergs floating by. And then there's just snow-covered mountain peak. And then you'll see a couple penguins porpoising, and for me, I thought of it, is this a dream or is this really happening?
During the summer season, millions of Antarctic penguins make their way to shore for one purpose.
Penguins are seabirds. They spend incredible amounts of time swimming, and more so maybe than I ever realized till I got the opportunity to be down there and watch them. These birds are constantly in the ocean feeding, and really they're just coming on land to make their nests and to breed.
Matthew spent 3 months at Palmer Station, the smallest of the U.S. Antarctic research stations.
Food's good. We have 2 chefs, so that's great, but it's really tough in terms of lack of produce. We only get a supply boat once every month or 2. You know, it's tough on the fruits and vegetables. It's hard to get a good salad. We get up early, maybe 6 or 7, you know, grab a cup of coffee, and we watch the weather because that environment can change so quickly and you can really get in trouble. So we got to make sure the winds are in the right direction and that we're not going to get trapped by ice.
Researchers sail out to islands every day to observe the penguins, take data on their nesting and growth rates for population analysis. There are 18 penguin species on Earth, but some of the most common on the Antarctic Peninsula are the gentoo, playful, high-energy, great swimmers, and the 3rd largest of the penguin species. There are chinstraps, loud, medium-sized penguins, named for the fine line of black feathers around their faces, and the Adelies, with their classic tuxedo color.
My personal favorite would have been working with the Adelies, and they just seem to be really rigid in their thinking. This is what we do, this is our method and our routine.
Penguin pairs gather in colonies and build nests made of small rocks. Mom and Dad take turns incubating. One parent keeps the eggs warm, while the other goes to eat small fish and krill at sea. You can tell who's been on baby duty by their bellies. A dirty belly means the penguin has been on the nest. A clean belly shows the penguin probably has just eaten a nice meal in the ocean. It's hard to cover much ground with that distinctive penguin waddle, so in the wild, penguins often toboggan, sliding on their stomachs, propelled by flippers and feet. It's a faster, more efficient way to get around.
They live a really hard life. They're very strong, tough creatures, and there's a lot of animals that are out there that want to eat them. And the brown skewers really, I'd say, are basically like a big brown seagull with an attitude. They live in close proximity of these penguin colonies, and they steal eggs, and they also feed on penguin chicks, and that's the harsh reality of the world down there, but it's all part of that circle of life and keeps the ecosystem in check.
Another reality, penguins are notorious thieves.
And Adelie goes and runs away from his nest to go steal a rock, and while he's gone, 7 rocks have been taken out of his nest. One morning it was really funny. There was an Adelie that had 2 chicks, and they're getting big, maybe the size of a football. And sure enough, I see the chick like stretching its neck out to the chick next door to steal a rock. So they certainly teach that at a young age.
Scientists from the Detroit Zoological Society also took an expedition to Antarctica this winter, along with some staff members, donors, and scientists from the Polar Oceans Research Group.
We were looking for new research sites, and we think we found some. We were looking to confirm some new theories about how the Antarctic ecosystem works, and the dynamic between sea ice and the birds. We were doing filming for our Science on a Sphere. We were doing filming for the building in here. We were doing some infrared thermography research, and we were picking up our resident life sciences staff member who was at the station for the past 3 months.
Matthew hitched a ride home with the group. Trips like this help raise money for major projects like the brand new Polk Penguin Conservation Center, the largest in the world. The outside design is inspired by tabular icebergs.
In the wintertime, this flat area in front of the building will be a skating rink, and you might be able to see the outline of Antarctica on the floor. Right in the center of the building is where the waterfall will be. So in the summertime, this will be a splash area and a waterfall which reflects basically iceberg calving, which happens a lot and is a pretty dramatic event.
The inside takes penguins close to their Antarctic home. Remember, some penguins spend as much as 80% of their lives in the water.
So we created a much larger aquatic environment for them, over 325,000 gallons of chilled water, and they're able to dive up to 25 feet below the surface. So this is the deepest pool anywhere, and this is 10 times the amount of water that we had in the original penguinarium. The temperature in the building for the birds is much, much colder than what we used to have. So it's near freezing 37 degrees all the time. There are wind machines and wave machines, ice and snow for the birds, and that's just for the birds themselves.
Being able to watch them out in Antarctica helped me think of little ways that we can change our husbandry for them here. One thing being seeing what an uneven terrain they walk on out there, seeing how high they'll climb, and different ways that we can change our substrate they can walk on with the new Polk Penguin Conservation Center. I think we really utilize that ability to provide them with a huge body of water where they'll be able to swim and behave so naturally.
Visitors will learn the history of exploration, the current science on our ecological footprint and climate change, and visitors will get a sense of what life is like on the southernmost continent.
It is a lot easier to come here than it is to go to Antarctica. I think it's very important for people to understand that zoos today are very different than the way they used to be. They used to be essentially parks with animal exhibits, but the agenda now is far more substantive. We really mean to help conserve the world's wildlife and wild places. And so there is a lot of research going on.
7,000 miles away from Antarctica, life is good for the penguins at the Polk Penguin Conservation Center.
I think that people will see that we have gone to incredible lengths to provide animals with an incredible environment where they don't have to worry about skuas, they don't have to worry about leopard seals, they don't have to worry about finding food. I mean, this is a really phenomenal place for animals to live. It's a sanctuary, and that's the way it should be.
The Polk Penguin Conservation Center opens in April, and Matthew Porter kept a blog while he was working in Antarctica, and we have a link to it on the first block page of clickondetroit.com. Well, the sweet and spicy drink that's synonymous with Detroit is celebrating a big anniversary. Meet the man who's throwing the party for Vernors. That's next. It came before Coke and Pepsi. Its intense taste is hard to describe, and it has legions of devoted fans, including an especially enthusiastic collector. By day, he's the superintendent of Waterford Schools, but wander down to his basement and you'll see Keith Wunderlich has another passion for Detroit's original pop.
If you're from Detroit, you know that sound, that nose-tickling carbonation, and you know the unmistakable taste of Vernors Ginger Ale. It's the oldest soda pop in the U.S., and that rich history means a lot of memorabilia for mega fan Keith Wunderlich to collect.
Even on the ceilings! You got stuff on the ceilings!
Keith's basement is an homage to the long legacy Vernors has in Detroit. More than 150 years ago, Detroit pharmacist James Vernor, yes, that Vernor, was tinkering around with a recipe for ginger ale when he enlisted to fight in the Civil War.
Came back 4 years later and took out this cask, and it's actually the extract, the syrup of the ginger ale that he had stored in the keg. Brought it out and tried it, and all of a sudden it was wonderful. And it hadn't been wonderful before the Civil War, but that 4 years had mellowed the taste. And that was one of their slogans for years too, mellowed in wood 4 years.
Vernor started selling the drink at a soda fountain in 1866. His son, James Vernor II, joined the business and helped it grow. They built a plant complete with its own stunning soda fountain and devised a distribution system.
Vernors is really part of the fabric of Detroit. You know, it's been around for so long, obviously. It was so prominent in downtown Detroit. It had a factory right where Hart Plaza is now, right on the river. It was on Woodward, but below Jefferson. So, you know, it was right there in that property. And the only thing next to it was the Boblo boats. So people would go to the Vernors soda fountain and then hop on the Bob Lowe boats.
Keith is the founder of the Vernors Club newsletter for other aficionados, and he has an impressive collection of Vernors paraphernalia ranging from the earliest days to now. The gnome first appeared in 1924 advertisements. The company said its job was to protect the secret formula.
This particular guy is actually a mechanical gnome, and they made 6 of these, and he would be down in the aging cellars, and if you were to take a tour of Vernors, you would see the gnomes.
In the late 1950s, riverfront development forced Vernors to move its headquarters and plant to a location further north on Woodward. The family-owned company soon went public and dropped the apostrophe from its name. Over the years, slogans ranged from Detroit's drink to deliciously different to describing the barrel-aged taste. And starting in the 80s,
Hey, Pierre, where's the good stuff? Oh, yeah.
Vernors tapped some notable Detroiters to tout its one-of-a-kind taste.
Now I'm ready to rock and roll.
The Dr. Pepper Snapple Group owns Vernors now, and the original Ultra Fizzy formula has been toned down a little bit to appeal to more customers. But that doesn't bother the die-hard enthusiasts.
You have a Vernors tattoo, complete with the gnome.
That's hardcore.
That is hardcore.
You always hear the story of how you were given Vernors as a kid when you didn't feel well. You know, my grandmother, my mother would, if you had an upset stomach, would always give you Vernors to settle your stomach, and I still do that to this day.
I still, when my granddaughter comes over, we heat up Vernors for her when she's got a cold. It's just the thing you did.
It's absolutely true. Vernors it has ginger, and ginger is known to have soothing effects on the stomach.
A Vernors float is ice cream topped with our favorite pop. So why is it that Vernors blended with ice cream is a Boston cooler?
There's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet, and it has nothing to do with Boston Boulevard, as a matter of fact. Back in the day, any pop mixed with ice cream like a milkshake was called a Boston cooler. I have pictures of signs of a Hires Boston cooler. So it was more, the drink was a Boston cooler, and then you'd say, what flavor did you want? So I want a Vernors Boston cooler. Now Vernors got smart and trademarked the name. And so then it became only associated with Vernors.
2016 marks 150 years of Detroit's drink. Keith and the club are setting up a celebration at the Detroit Historical Museum in June, including a Vernors history scavenger hunt and a world record attempt.
We're going to try to break a record of the most people drinking pop. So we'd like hundreds, thousands of people to come down and drink a Vernors.
There are photos from past Vernors anniversaries in Keith's vast collection. This year's century-and-a-half milestone surely means more new memories and memorabilia will be added.
What does your wife think about this?
My wife is very understanding as long as it all stays in the basement. And it does, pretty much.
And you can find more information on Vernors' 150th anniversary, including all the events surrounding the June 11th celebration, on the First Block page of our website. That's clickondetroit.com. And a Boston cooler will probably taste really great about then, too. Thank you for watching First Block, everybody, and until then, have a great one.